Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Eric Twiggs. Eric is a founding partner and president of the What Now movement. He is the author of The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. The Discipline of Now has been recognized as a Global Top 10 Finalist for the 2020 Author Elite Awards in the category of Best Self-Help Book. All right. And this recognition was based on the combination of the following criteria: cover design, content, popularity, and social contribution. Eric is also the host of a weekly inspirational podcast titled The 30-Minute Hour. He's a certified business and life coach, and Eric has conducted over 28,000 coaching sessions helping executive leaders and entrepreneurs who have moved from feeling frustrated to finding fulfillment. All right, welcome to the show, Eric.
Hey, Sheila, it's an honor to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
And one of the things I always like to ask people is, this show actually started after my best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this last 12 months or 14 months now, we've had every situation, things we couldn't even imagine happen to us globally. And so I'd like to start off with maybe, do you have a time in your business or personal life where you experienced a difficult situation, and how did you get back on track?
So my time was back when I was in college. It was my senior year at Hampton University, and I'm having this conversation with a friend of mine. His name's Donnell. Now, he and I, we were a little different. He was all about his purpose. I was all about the party. But he would always give me a hard time and say, "Oh, Eric, you need to get serious. You need to figure out what it is you want to do with your life." And I'm like, "Man, loosen up. You know, are you coming to the frat party with me or not?" And several weeks go by, I don't talk to him. But then I get a phone call from his mother informing me of the fact that he was killed in a car accident. It sent me a serious message. It sent me the message that maybe we don't have the time that we think to do the things that we want to do. And that's why that's the experience that really inspired me and motivated me to focus on how I'm spending my time and overcoming procrastination and helping people to overcome procrastination as well.
Wow. Yes, that is a difficult time at such a young age to lose a loved one or a family friend. Very difficult, and something that kind of wakes you up. Definitely. We lost a young girl that was my daughter and son's best friend all through elementary school on. And it was the same thing. It was a car crash that it was somebody else. They were racing, and it had nothing to do with her. She was going home from work. She worked at one of the amusement parks in California. And so it was very difficult for everyone, but it changed my young children. It changed how they looked at life, because you don't have a concept of mortality at this young age. You're supposed to have fun, right?
Right.
I was the one having fun too. So I get it. Yeah. So those are the things that happen to us. Now, I'd love to hear more about your book and what's inside the book a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. So my book, it's The Discipline of Now. I think I just so happen to have a copy right here. Right. Just so happened. 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. And the thing that makes my book different from the others on this topic of overcoming procrastination is that I've developed what's called the Procrastination Prevention Pyramid. It's a model, and it's got 5 levels. And if you follow the 5 levels, you'll find that you've overcome procrastination. Now, I put this model together based off of the experiences from over 28,000 plus coaching sessions with entrepreneurs and executive leaders.
Wow. So okay, I procrastinate in some areas, but not in others. So I don't really love like organizing, reorganizing, cleaning. I do it because I have to, but there are times when it'll kind of go to the bottom of the list And, if somebody asks me, let's go have a drink, coffee, I don't drink, but coffee or something, let's go to the neighborhood concert now that the music is back live. I'm like, okay, what house, what cleaning? So what is the secret to overcoming something you procrastinate on because you just don't like it?
Well, see, that's pretty common. That's called task aversion. So really, like the root cause of just about all procrastination is discomfort, right? There's something that you're not comfortable about as it relates to that particular task. And so task aversion is very common. So the key is to understand this. And I wish someone, Sheila, had told me this like earlier in my career, that just because something has to be done, it doesn't mean that you have to do it.
Yes.
Right. So you have to recognize that. Is there a way that you can outsource it? Can you get a virtual assistant? Can you get, if it's can you hire somebody to come and clean the house? Is there, or, there's a lot of ways to get around it. Or if it's something that you have to do, can you pair it with a task that you enjoy? Like I enjoy reading audiobooks. Mm-hmm. I don't honestly enjoy taking the trash out. It's necessary. It's going to create big problems if you don't. So I'll combine the tasks. Whenever I go to take the trash out, I put in my favorite audiobook, and the time goes by, things get done. But the fundamental thing is it's awareness, right? So being aware, because people say, "Oh, I always procrastinate." No, you don't. Mm-hmm. If you really play the tape back, there's patterns, right? It's for you, it could be just things you just don't like to do. Mm-hmm. For other people, it could be whenever it's something that's going to move your business forward because you're afraid of what that's going to look like. So really pay attention to those patterns.
Wow, that's a good point. And yes, I confess, I have always had help in my house, but then with COVID, we barely actually have somebody coming to help me this weekend, and I'll be right there next door working together to reorganize things. But that's something I didn't have for this whole time. And all these years I've worked 10, 12, sometimes 16 hours a day. And I get home and it's like, I'm kind of tired. Let me do the minimum. And then I want to go have a social life, go out or spend time with my family and friends. And, so it kind of, certain things get put aside that you would normally have somebody else help you with. And usually I help with them, but it's like, then you're not alone. So right. At least for me. So that does make a difference. Wow. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, with your book, how did that go as far as, was this your first book, and writing the book? What was that process like for you? There's lots of new authors listening in all the time.
So I had written an ebook before. It's actually on my website. It's called One Moment in Time, Preparing Your Life for Your Defining Moment. This is my first official paperback, audio, the whole deal. Right? Yeah. So the process for me is, and this is one of my big takeaways and this can help any new author, is to get out of the habit of trying to write and edit at the same time. Yeah. That was a big stumbling block for me. And so finally it clicked in. I went to a writing clinic, and they had us do this exercise where you just had to, whatever came to mind, no matter how crazy it sounded to you, you just had to write it. Mm-hmm. It was like a free-flowing writing style. And literally, that's how I wrote the introduction to the book. Because I just wrote what came to mind. They timed you. And I looked at it, I was surprised. I was like, wow, that was really good. So that's the key. And so I would say, don't write and edit at the same time, and think about the outline format. That's what helped me, making an outline, putting the title together, putting the outlining the chapters, and then it really made it easier for me to go back and add content from there.
Nice. And then how long did that take to write the process?
Well, see, the total time took 6 years. The total time to write the book, because as your procrastination prevention partner, I was procrastinating for the time. It's kind of, there's irony in procrastinating on a procrastination book, but I will say a lot of that was good, because there were things that came to me that wouldn't have made it into the book because it took long, and I had certain experiences and revelations that I was able to add to it.
Yes, that is so true. I didn't think I had writer's block or procrastination with my book writing, but there were a couple of chapters where I was just like, I don't know. I know I want to write something, but what is it? And I recall this one time I was actually at a beautiful hotel, and I was waiting to close escrow on a house that I was going to move into. So it was like in between houses, you have to stay somewhere. And I said, well, I'm going to pay less for my new house than I sold. So I'll stay at this beautiful hotel and it was like almost a month. And I was writing in the room. I literally like ordered Amazon and had the little freezer and microwave. I didn't eat out even in the hotel, nothing. I was just working. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go spend, I don't know, $50 on a meal. You know how these very fancy places, they're super expensive. Like, I'm going to go spend $50 on this meal when I'm already staying in this hotel. So I went and I ran into the most incredible two ladies. Actually, nobody was there. It was like in between meal time, but they were still open. And so the lady that like shows you to your seat and the waitress, they both started talking to me. And my chapter was on careers. Both of them were like middle age, and one of them wanted to switch careers. And I was telling them about the book, and the next thing you know, we got to talking about careers. And the other lady, she had her children young. She ended up with 5 children. And what happened was she didn't graduate high school because she got pregnant really young. And so she didn't know she could go to college or how hard that was going to be. And she never really figured it out. And I was like, wait, nobody's here, sit down. And they joined me for dinner and we talked, and I gave her some guidance because I have 6 children that are now grown and got them all through college, and told her all the secrets and how to get the financial assistance she needed. And I said, I'll help you with the forms if you need anything. And the next thing you know, 2 or 3 days later, she was in college, and the other lady switched her job, and now she's working with airlines. And so it was kind of amazing. And I actually said, can I have permission to add your stories, change your names, all that in the book? Because I really feel I was so guided. I didn't even, the food was incredible, but it was guided that I met these 2 incredible people. And actually, you know, we helped each other so much. And I said, there's so many other people on this planet that have the same stories and need that advice. And it goes deeper, of course, in my book, but that was it. So sometimes we have to step away. What about that with other procrastination, as far as stepping away to come back, or when you really are at a block with it? Or
Yeah, I think there's something called recovery, right? And I think that's important. And a lot of times, if you're just, because you and I, we probably have the same tendency. We just want to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. But you know, a peak performance principle is to stop and rest. And a lot of times, I find after a rest period, the ideas start coming back to me a lot better. Or even if I stop and I take a nap and I wake up, let's say if I was struggling with an idea, sometimes when I wake back up again, the idea comes to me. Mm-hmm. So I think if you can build, you have to be strategic about rest.
Right.
And I think so the top performers, they have rest scheduled into their routine. Anybody that's an elite performer, whether it's sports, business, or what have you, the best of the best, they have rest periods scheduled in.
Well, I confess, I was up all hours of the day and night, you know, with the book, and creating a website that the people dropped the project. So I had to learn WordPress and teach myself things that I programmed when I was 18. And then I realized that wasn't my thing. So I had to kind of, you know, go back and figure things out and watch a lot of Google. And I said, well, I paid them, and now I'm doing the work. That's great. But so I had to meet the deadline of when the book was coming out. So I was up. I probably got 3 to 5 hours a night for a long time, and it was exhausting. And I was like, no, I'm going to get it to the finish line. Yes. So it was a lot of work. And then there was a time where I let myself sleep in. I I would schedule things half day and I would rest before I really started getting into, I usually teach courses every morning, online courses with I work for a different company, a big real estate company. I teach their courses and then I teach my courses and I do all that. And so it's kind of nice, but rest is something I think we forget. I really think so. And
Well, because if you watch these motivational videos, it's always, you gotta grind. You will not outwork me.
yeah.
And so here's the challenge I found being a productivity guy, right? You get to the point where you learn how to get a lot of stuff done. But if you're not careful, you end up just doing a lot of stuff.
Right.
And you don't factor in rest, and you can easily become a candidate for burnout.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was definitely on that burnout list during those long nights.
I've
And
been there.
yeah, like, wait, I am not 21 anymore. This is just not working out like it used to. So there's a certain point where it doesn't matter who you are, you've got to honor that requirement for rest. And then there's like the 80-20 principle, Pareto's principle, about how really it's 20% of what we do really makes all the difference. And when I heard about that, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's right. That's 100% right. What am I wasting my time on? Like you said, what do you really not need to do that you're doing just because you're supposed to do it, or busy work, or for somebody else that's not really serving your business or paying you in one way or another. So
yeah, you can never confuse activity with effectiveness, right? Just because you're moving around doing things doesn't mean you're doing the right things. And I even mentioned that in the book about the 80-20 principle, where 20% of the things you do are getting you 80% of the results. I found that to be true.
Yes. So for people that are really busy this year, because now a lot of people still are having their children at home and they're working, and they've got now they're teacher / mom or dad, and you're got the serious business in one room, and then you go to the other room and okay, kids, go do this or whatever, and you're guiding them. What do you suggest for staying productive when you have these distractions? Really, and you love your kids. We all love our kids, yet it's like 2 full-time jobs.
That's the exact situation I'm in. We've been homeschooling. So I think there's a couple of things. Number one, I do something that's called the power list, where you make a list of your top 5 priorities for the day, right? I just believe that if everything is a priority, nothing's a priority, right? So you have all of these things. So I always have, you ever see me? I always have a 3x5 card.
Mm-hmm.
That's with me at all times. And so at the end of my day, I'll make a list of 5 critical things that I need to do for the following day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to do it at the end of the day, because a lot of times when you go to sleep, your subconscious will go to work and give you ideas on how to execute on some of the things that you wrote down. Mm-hmm. And from there, the focus is your priorities, and your priorities should match the goals that you set for yourself and mm-hmm. things that you're working towards. So yes, you may have a lot of things going on in the house, but the question is, did I get my priorities done?
Yes. Wow. I think I'm sort of using that without knowing I was using that, because I will really focus on certain things, and other things will be like, okay, that's good. I really want to do those things, or I care about them, but it's not a priority today. And I don't think there's any way I could function without having that, because then you'd kind of be all over the place and nothing would be 100% complete ever. And that would be very frustrating. I think almost disempowering, because you're putting in so much effort and you're not getting any results in any area of your life. And right. that would be just like, okay, I am on this is the treadmill. So yeah, that makes a big difference. I'm going to get the 3x5 cards out. I have a whole bunch in my office. I think that's a great idea, to just have it as a reminder to just, okay, this is what it's okay. And at the end of the day, to give myself credit, there's something about a victory or a celebration while you're on that process of doing your goals or whatever, getting things done. What do you suggest for that?
So you get a dopamine rush, right? Mm-hmm. So and I try to encourage people. Yes, I know we're in the electronics age. You could do an electronic. I think it's better to write. Yeah. You write it down. It's a stronger link to your brain, and then you get a when you're checking off that you did something. You get that dopamine rush, mm-hmm. and it's almost like a natural high that you feel, and it's very rewarding. But you have to celebrate. And the other thing I have people to do is to focus to track their wins, right? I have people start what I call a win log. And that's where it could be the slightest, smallest thing, right? It could be, I got a 5-star review from someone today. It could be, I made a sale that I never thought I was going to be able to make. And I tell people, the more you track your wins, the more wins you'll have to track, because we're wired to focus on negativity, mm-hmm. right? The studies show that 80% of the thoughts that go through our mind are negative. Our self-talk tends to be negative. So if you focus on the wins and then celebrate, if you get into yes, I got a 5-star review. Excellent. Yes. Yeah. Telling you start building momentum. I have people, I would ask them, tell me about your wins. And they couldn't tell me anything over a whole week or so. Wow. And after working with them for a while, they have 5, 6, 7, 8 things they're telling me about. And if I don't ask them, they'll cut me off mid-sentence and say, no, wait a minute. You didn't ask me about my wins. I got to tell you about all this great stuff that happened to me.
Yes. Wow. That does make a difference. And it is something that even as parents, we're both parents, and parents listening in, celebrate your kids' wins, especially this year, because this year is a scary year for everyone. And it affects our children. They see the emotions. We could pretend it's all good, but they see our emotions after we hear something new on the news, some new, incredible, interesting thing crazy thing going on. And they see us and they feel that. And so to focus on the wins, focus on the positive, and reassure them that we are good here, and to celebrate what we can now, even though the craziness is happening on our planet and things aren't the way we wish they were, we can celebrate those wins every day. And I think that's something, even when you're reinforcing positive behavior, to celebrate the good instead of just picking on the bad so they don't feel so bad, they give up. I think children give up.
Oh, sure. And I think you have to recognize progress, right? So let's say your child is a C student, but they all of a sudden they get a B. So you have to recognize, okay, yeah, you may want them to get an A, but you have to recognize the fact that now they've gone from a C to a B. Mm-hmm. Because I think what happens with some people is they check out. They say, you know what, no matter what, they're never going to be happy. I can't win, and they just check out. I see this with adults all the time. So it's very important to recognize the progress. Even if they're a D student and all of a sudden they start making C's, you have to recognize that progress.
Yes. And then that goes, you said adults, that goes to the workplace. If you're leading a team or working with a group, even if you have coworkers that you work with in team projects or whatever, to notice the positive and be positive instead of just saying what we didn't do. We didn't meet this goal this month. What did we do? And then how can we adjust to make it better next month? But that is something that's really important, and something we forget, I think, this year more than ever, this last 14 months, because things are serious. A lot of businesses are rebuilding and reorganizing and trying to just stay afloat. And then, they're like, okay, we got to make this sale. We got to do all this work. And you forget to really thank the people that are there and let them know how much you care and appreciate having them on board with you while you rebuild. So that makes a big difference for sure. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd love to hear some more about your coaching work that you do with the businesses.
Yeah. So I work with entrepreneurs and executive leaders My goal is to help them to beat procrastination so they can make more money, get more done, and feel more confident. So typically I'll coach somebody's one-on-one. It could be a group coaching setting where you've got 10 to 12 people. That's rare. From time to time I do that. But I'll also do workshops and keynote presentations as well.
Nice. So that's interesting. So how to, on the finance part, on really building income and making more money, what do you find helps the most with people in business right now?
Well, I tell you, speed is a differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's one thing: people are terrible with follow-up. Most people, they're bad. If you go to a networking conference and you give out business cards, very few people are actually going to follow up with you. So if you can overcome procrastination on something like follow-up, you will be ahead of most. So if you can just get yourself to take that extra step and always follow up, that you're going to stand out to people. And if you get in that habit of over promising, if you're in a service industry, if they think it's going to be done by 5 o'clock and you get it done by 3 o'clock, now you're a hero.
Nice.
So the bottom line is speed is a differentiator. And if you consistently can separate yourself and differentiate yourself like that with speed, you'll make more money.
Yes. And checking in, I think, like you said, follow up and checking in with clients that are already paying you. They're already clients, so they don't go away.
Right.
Is really important too, especially now. So that is a good one. Definitely true. And for somebody, what advice do you have for somebody now? A lot of people, they've had their jobs are gone. They're wherever they were working, it's over. And so now they're trying to either do a side business and work or start their own business. What advice do you have for people that are just getting started as an entrepreneur, really?
Well, I think this is so whenever you have a crisis or a pandemic, there's two sides. There's the danger, but there's also the opportunity, right? And it forces you to get creative and think outside the box and think about, what are those things that you're passionate about? So if you want to start a business, what's something that you enjoy so much that you would do for free? Mm-hmm. Right? Is it speaking? Is it podcasting? Is it, what is that? And then, the next step is who is already having success in that arena? Because a lot of times you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can find out the steps they took and it may not be as complicated as you think. I mean, I know, on my podcast, at 30 Minute Hour, we've interviewed several people who started businesses from their kitchen table that are 8 figures.
Yeah.
I mean, I could several examples of people that have done that from around the world. So there's a tremendous opportunity. But the worst thing that somebody can say is, I'll just wait until things get back to normal. Yeah, I want to start this venture, but I'm going to wait until things get back to normal. No, you have to you have to make pivots. What can you do now?
That is so true. And I know for me, we experienced a loss in December 2019. I lost my youngest son. He had a heart condition, and it was really hard on our whole family. And my book was supposed to come out January. And I said, no, I'm going to put it on hold. And we did have our time. And then the pandemic hit and we were like, really? We don't need this right now. But it happened. And at some point I realized my book is really designed to help people, especially through these tough times. And so I said, okay, now I'm going to slowly get back on track. And before you knew it, the book was a bestseller. And I have the podcast that I got invited to the radio and TV show. And then, it keeps going from there. So many incredible opportunities to speak now online and lead groups I'm leading a group in South Africa. I'm leading another one in Australia. And I've got people all over the United States that I'm working with that had I gone on a normal book tour, that wouldn't have happened. There's no way you could travel that much and connect. And I'm so connected with the people that I'm working with now that it's like, I know when things open again, we're going to visit each other and have times together and be present with each other in person, but we've built connections. So I didn't wait after the time, we did take our family time, but then after that, I realized okay, now that I'm ready, I needed to heal a little bit enough to, serve other people again. And when I was ready, I went and started. And I thought, oh, well, I had so many setbacks, but it's just starting. And it's making all the difference for so many people. And that's what gets me up in the morning, is being able to do that. So it makes a big difference.
That's great. Yeah. And sometimes what people don't realize is that the small steps count. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I'm a huge fan of small steps. If you say, I haven't worked out in 5 years, I want to start running again. To me, the first thing you could do is walk around the block.
Yes.
Just start. Walk around the block. You don't have to start by running a marathon. And then build from there. And as you build, you'll get more into it. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you have to just ask yourself, what's the smallest step I can take? Okay, I want to write a book. I have no idea where to begin. What's the smallest step you can take? I can call Eric, the author, and pick his brain on what he did. That's a small step. And then after that, after what Eric may give me some good advice, I can take the next step. I can join a writer's club. There's a lot of things. So start with the smallest step. I think that's so important.
Yes. And sometimes give yourself credit for, even if it's a little step for you. I mean, there were mornings after we had our loss where I was like, I got out of bed and I did a few things today. I'm a winner. I mean, and I had to really stay on that. Okay. Give yourself credit. I think sometimes we're our hardest critics. We are very hard on ourselves, maybe more than we would ever be on another person. You'd never tell that to your children or your loved ones. You wouldn't be like that. But for ourselves, we have this, I don't know, this voice that sometimes is like, it's not enough. Do more. And so when you switch that to, okay, I did this little thing, then it's almost like, okay, I have permission to do more. And if I didn't, I'm not going to attack myself with the bad talk. And that's a good way to start. I think it's something that is a habit. I don't know where it comes from, but once you overcome that, it really does make a difference.
I agree. I think it also helps you to if you make mistakes, mm-hmm. It helps you to stay on the right road. Because I went through that as well, where earlier in my career, if I made a mistake, I dropped the ball, I would just really beat myself up. Right. And it was harder for me to recover and stay in the moment. Where now it's okay, I made a mistake. What did I learn from it? What's the next thing? But it's taken years of that. So no, what you said, I mean, if you can get to the point, if you can not be judgmental or criticize yourself, that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that does. It makes a big difference. And so let me see now, what is something that you would tell your younger self if you could go back in time? What advice would you give your younger self?
That it's better to stand out than to fit in. That's what I would say, because I think we all get caught up in this thing of wanting to be cool, wanting to fit in, to be accepted. But I think there's value in being different. Mm-hmm. And I think, so if there's somebody that's watching me, if you feel like you're the oddball or you just don't fit in, that's a great thing. And I think you have to really lean into that, because if you look at businesses that succeed, they've got a different twist. They're not doing the same thing that everybody else that does that business is doing. There's something about that business that gets the customer's attention. So that I would have leaned into what made me different, more so than trying to fit in and be accepted as much.
Yes, and that's something that I think it starts in school, maybe. I don't know, where, you have to wear what everybody's wearing, the latest fashion, or say what everybody's saying. Everybody's hanging out, and there's a certain point in your life where you realize, okay, this is great, but I'm not even enjoying this. I'm just doing these things because everybody's doing these things. And that's when you're able to finally kind of find your peer group that's aligned with who you really are. And when you think about young children, they're in their essence and their truth before they learn to like conform to what you're supposed to be. They're who they are. And everybody sits around and watches them, and they're singing or dancing or, doing some kind of sport, and they're just in their essence and truth. And it's like, wow, they're not an ego, they're not competing with anyone, but they're incredible. And that's who we all are. And then we lose it because we listen to all this stuff about have to, sit quiet, raise your hand, don't ask any questions, and don't question anything, and follow this this one sitting desk job 8 hours a day or something when you're like 8, or you're bad. And it's like, when you're 8, really?
Right.
So that makes a big difference. I think one of the things I did with I have 3 children of my own, and then 3 children that we adopted. So they're all ours now, but they're all grown. And one of the things was I always taught them to question, to have discernment, to think for themselves, and to be themselves. And let me tell you, when they became teenagers, they questioned everything, especially me. I was like, wait, no, not me. So has its rewards and its downfall. But I was so grateful, because when things weren't right, even if it was a teacher maybe, or somebody that wasn't aligned, that was telling them something that was completely not ethical in their minds, they would come to me right away, and they would say, you know what, this doesn't feel right. There's something that we need to talk about. This, I don't know about this. And then you'd notice, okay, yes, everybody else has the same situation, but nobody says anything. And so that's important. And really, when
Yeah.
you're reading books and you're listening to trainings and you're learning from different people, it's the discernment that, even the training for your book, it's still yours. So you still have to put it through your own filter of how you want to show up. So it's your truth coming out. And it's so refreshing, because everybody's like, oh, thank goodness. It's that mask that we've been wearing. It's like the other mask that they have us wear to pretend we're something we're not and to conform. When we take that mask off, that's when we all have freedom, and everybody's like, oh, thank goodness. I mean, think about when you go to the grocery store and you got to wear the mask, and everybody rips the mask off as soon as they're outside. They're like, oh, air. And so that's the same thing in a metaphor that I think maybe the universal pause has been really trying to share with us.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you say that our daughter, she asks questions, and I'm trying to encourage, cultivate that. I'm like, Aaron, keep doing that, because that's a great habit. It's called intellectual curiosity. And I was reading a book, was it Think Again by Adam Grant? It's a great book, and they did this study of like the most successful presidents in the United States, and the one trait he said they had in common was this intellectual curiosity. Right. So if they were in a room, they were always asking questions. Well, why? Why do you think that way? Even if it was people that were on the opposite spectrum from them, they were asked, well, why do you feel? Why do you disagree? And as opposed to just like most people blindly accept what's presented to them. So I think just asking questions and just getting in the habit of challenging that status quo is critical.
Yes, that is so important. That's something. One of my years ago, I was a teacher to help all my 6 children go to these schools, and so I did Montessori teaching, and then I did Waldorf teaching, and the kids got to go free as long as I was a teacher there. So it worked for me, because I really wanted to have my children with me as much as possible. And the trainer, the main person that started the Waldorf schools is Rudolf Steiner. And his teaching is that we need to understand all people, all cultures, everybody around the world, all the different religions. And when we're able to hear from their perspective and really honor them, we're honoring all of humanity, because all of us together are really one humanity. And so the children would learn through each culture that they would study, each religion through the years. You go through different cultures and religions. And I, as a teacher, had to learn as I went, because I went through public school. I didn't get to learn that. And it was incredible. And it changed my perspective on everything, because instead of this judgment, it's like, okay, let's really get to know what it would be like to be on this side of the planet, or doing this, or living this way, or having this religion that's so different from mine. And I just loved that. It's so important, and something we forget sometimes. And in our diverse United States, I don't know how we forgot it, because we're so diverse here, but it happens. So yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I think people, sometimes it's a struggle for people to, especially if it's people that disagree with you, that disagree with your viewpoint. It's hard to really be able to understand, try to understand someone else's point of view.
Yeah. But if you were them, you would have this whole, when you're able to have that compassion of, wait a minute, yeah, that wouldn't be so good. I don't want to be in that situation.
Right.
That change, your compassion shows up, your empathy, understanding. And then there's something where, I don't know, there's peace and an ability to have new ideas show up, synergistic ideas, I guess, with people. So for young kids, adults, even in work environments, teamwork right now is more important than ever, because people are coming to work and stuff is going on our planet, in our world, and at home, situations, and they don't talk about it, but there's stress, there's anxiety, is this job going to be here next week? What's going on? And so with that, to have meetings and conversations, power meetings, team meetings, things that are not even about the work, but just to keep everybody in a place where they're sharing and talking about things, is really important. And the other thing I always share is, if you have a business or you're working with a team, wherever you go, share about the 211. And that's in every state in the United States and every province in Canada. And that's where you Google 211 in your state, or you dial 211, and you get help for getting food on the table, help with maybe if you can't pay your bills, help with all kinds of, and any kind of mental health situation going on. Somebody's depressed, going through this crazy time. And there's tons of different ways people can get help, because they may be coming to work, but if they don't have food on the table, or they can't pay their bills, or somebody else is having a mental health issue at home, or an addiction, they're not going to really be able to be as productive, but they don't want to say anything. So if you just post a sign about that then people know there's a resource that they didn't know existed.
No, I think that's great. And so I talk to people, sometimes there'll be someone I'm coaching, and they'll say, oh, these millennials, they don't want to work, and you can't. It's not the millennial. It's just times are different. I think the days of it's my way or the highway type of being that type of a boss, or trying to have that type of a culture, it's not going to work now. People, you really have to pay attention to the whole person, and they have to feel like they trust you. It has to be more of a, people are not willing to put up with a bad boss like they were in years past. So I think the culture and how you talk to people, and paying attention to, like you said, paying attention to what's going on. It just, I'm telling, just all the people I deal with, I'm always amazed at just the thing people are struggling with. And you look at them, you'd have no idea. Exactly. You think they have it all together, but they're dealing with some serious issue, the mind-blowing issue that they're dealing with. And you have to understand. And sometimes it's better to lead with questions and just really get to know the person.
Right. And for them to feel safe enough to share something like that. And usually when everybody knows in the workplace, you come together as a team and you help each other.
Yes.
But people don't say things, or they don't ask for help when they need it. And especially, I guess, us adults, we've come, you come to the point, you're a parent, you're an adult, you're taking care of everybody else, and you never ask for help when you need it. And, you're like, who do I go for help? Everybody's coming to me. Wait. So it's nice to have resources, groups, community connection, especially now. And that's going to make all the difference for sure. Now, Getting back to your book on the procrastination, do you do a coaching program aligned with that, or does that just show up in every single business coaching session you do?
Well, it shows up, but I do have a specific program.
Mm-hmm.
But quite often, there's usually something that's. So here's what I found out. Right, if someone's stuck, like in their business, 80% of the time, it's a mindset issue.
Mm-hmm.
There's something with their beliefs and how they think, and there's usually something they're procrastinating on. So it helps to be able to unpack that, because you can. The mistake I would make earlier in my career was to try to focus so much on the result. Yeah, but it's really, there's that thing behind the scene. If you don't address that, they're never going to move forward.
Right. Wow. So that's one key to like unlocking the procrastination, is to see what's really behind it.
Yeah, what's causing the procrastination? Where is that discomfort?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we'll be talking, and I'll talk to somebody, and 3 weeks in a row they haven't done something. It could be like estate planning. I didn't get to it. I didn't have time. And I'll say, okay, what's really going on here?
Mm.
What are you? Sometimes I'll just ask, what are you afraid of? And then there's just silence, and it's like, well, I am afraid of blah blah blah. So that discomfort is driving the procrastination, and if you're not aware that that's really what the issue is, you'll just keep doing it.
Yes. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'm having breakthroughs here as we speak on my own procrastinations. Like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And if you have a person in your work team, maybe you're a leader in your boss, whatever you want to call it, and you have somebody that's procrastinating on something, to find out what exactly is the discomfort, what can be changed, or is the person in the wrong position? Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. That could be it. And a lot of times people don't want to admit that they feel like they're in over their head. So it could be that you've got a square peg that's in a round hole.
Mm-hmm. Makes all the difference. Yes.
Sure.
I had these 5 gift stores. I started one when I was 23, and I had these gift stores. I ended up buying the other buildings, and I had a whole team. I ended up with employees. They were moms that sold really well at the department stores, but then they had babies. And I happened to say, well, I can't pay you commission. I can't pay you this and that. I can only pay you this amount, but I can give 2 nannies. I have this whole play area because I had my little ones. So I already had it. And I'll just add another nanny from the church, the retired ladies that love kids and they're bored. And so they would leave these great jobs to come work with us because they wanted to have their baby and take a walk with them, or see them through the day and just know they're safe. And I did that. And then I ended up with these over 200 kids that came through my program that were in foster care. They emancipated, or they were getting ready to emancipate, and they have no work experience, but nobody wants to hire them. And so I had a very diverse work team of these moms, and then these kids, and it was really perfect because the kids needed kind of the village of moms in our store. And my main manager was a top salesperson at a big department store. She came to work with me, and before she did that, she was a social worker. So she was my social worker. So it's interesting because the kids and even the adults would come in and they'd say, I want this job. And I would say, okay, I'm going to train you in every single position, but then they'll find what they're really good at, whether it's design or sales, and they'll find their voice. And then I give them a letter, and they would get really, high paying jobs somewhere else because they needed that ticket to go somewhere else. And they were paid very well while they were with me doing the training as well. But that was the difference, because I didn't just say to, no, you have this one position. I let everybody contribute. Like, it was really team building and teamwork, and to be able to have everybody have a voice. Okay, this is where we're at, and we want to make so much money, or this happened, and we got this one complaint about this product. What should we do? And I would open it up to everybody. We'd have these breakfast meetings, and we'd all discuss it. And the best ideas would come from somebody that you would never think,
Mm.
because they didn't even realize. And they're like, oh, yeah. And we would implement it. And then we'd see if that worked or what didn't work, what worked, and what do we need to change. And I think the store had a heart. And with that, it was because we cared and we let people have that freedom. We actually were so successful because of that. We weren't, you just go do this one job that you're hired for. And it made all the difference. I loved doing that. And it was a lot of work though. But yeah.
No, that's great. And I'm a big fan of the different personality tests because it helps you to identify what's the best fit for you, whether it's Myers-Briggs, DISC is really good, Wendell-Lake, there's all kinds of different tests, but it really helps you to find your fit because long term, yeah, you can make adjustments and change but it's hard to hold that long term, and you're not going to feel happy if you're in something that's not a natural fit for you for a long time. So I just think that's so important.
Yes, yes. So don't ever work for the money for long because that never works out. Oh my gosh. Like my first job, 18 years old, working at JPL. I was a young mom. I needed a job. Nobody else would apply. That they had better grades than I did in the college. They got their, we all had our computer training certificate or whatever. And I go in and get this job. And I worked so many hours before and after work to keep up because it wasn't my field. It wasn't something I love to do. I really don't like computer programming, but I was capable of figuring it out because I needed to make sure my baby had food and a place to live and things like that. So that was difficult. And finally, they had me teaching the safety, OSHA safety training programs.
Hmm.
Like, oh, this, I had everybody laughing, nobody fell asleep, that everybody got signed off and certified. And that was what I liked. Leading groups and speaking and talking. That was fun. But sitting at that desk, I mean, even my body, I would go home and I'd have the corporal tunnel. I never did an operation or anything, but I'd soak my wrists in ice and the back, the neck, all from, even my body was like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. It's not. So sometimes when we're redirected, like this gift of the universal pause may be a redirection for anyone listening in, because now you get to go do what you're really here to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And I know of people who they buy a franchise, for example, because they're so, oh, it's a turnkey operation and you got this support, but it's not something they're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like they own this job that they hate. And I always advise people, so if you're thinking about buying a sandwich franchise, ask yourself, do you see yourself making sandwiches on a Friday night because your people called out? And do you see yourself doing that? And if the answer is yes, go for it. Go right ahead. But if you're like, absolutely not, there's no way I'm going to do that. I'm in it for the money.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be miserable.
Right. Oh my gosh. I don't know how many times, holidays, weekends, that I would be the only one at my big store.
Right.
Because everybody called out for the the young kids for the concert in town, and the moms for something else going on that was at the school or whatever. And I'd be like, I'm all alone. And I would tell everybody it's okay, because I would rather not have you here if you don't want to be here. Because my clients, the people walking in the door, are going to feel that negative energy and they're not going to buy. So
Right.
I'm paying you to be here and you just need to go do what you need to do. And I would make all the sales myself, and that would be it. But yeah, so that is important. It's so important. It's going to make all the difference. Just get out there and try different things. The redirection. I was redirected, and it was such a gift. It really was. And at the time you think, well, this is difficult. I lost my job. I got downsized. Whatever happened with COVID. I mean, this year is a year. People that have been in business 30 plus years have gone out. So it's definitely time to decide what you want to do with the rest of your life that's going to be a fit. And it's easier.
Sure. Yeah. And the thing is, you don't necessarily have to Like even if you're working a full-time job, but you feel like you've got another passion, you can explore it on the side.
Right.
You know, you kind of get yourself in the hallway. And are there ways that you can on the weekends explore it and see if this is something that would be a fit for you? But yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to feel fulfilled.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Definitely. Okay, well, we are coming to the end of our time, Eric. It was wonderful to talk with you about all you're doing, and I'd love for you to share how people can connect with you to get your book or maybe sign up for some of your coaching programs.
So you can visit my website, www.ericmtwiggs.com. You can connect with me there. I've got a special offer for your viewers. Basically, you go on your phone, you can text the number 474747 and then type in the words Twiggs, Twiggs, time, time. That's one word. If you do that, you will instantly receive a complimentary audio copy of my book, The Discipline of Now. That's just a special for your followers. If they go ahead and text the number and type in Twiggs time, you get that. You get a free audio version of my book, The Discipline of Now.
Outstanding. Well, thank you again, Eric. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages.